Well, we got the generator fixed. First, I'll give a little bit about the generator, what little I know about it. It's got a 100-gallon fuel tank mounted in the frame. It's a Magnum Generac company. It's got a Marathon generator on it. Got an Isuzu diesel. Actually runs really smoothly. It's pretty nice. When you shut all the doors up, it gets really quiet. It's 33 kilowatts on 240, and it's 36 kilowatts on 480 208. It used to belong to a rental company. I don't know what they thought their issue was. Apparently they wanted it to put out 480 and it wasn't doing it. So they were working on it. They replaced the control panel, and that didn't fix what they were wanting to fix. So they got tired of working with it and they put it on auction. My brother bought it. Okay, so the problem we had was on 208 120, it was putting out the correct voltage and it worked flawlessly. But when it was on 240 120, it was only putting out, was it 104 and 208 on single phase, and then over here on the 480 it was only putting out 416. Okay, here are the diodes. I couldn't check them properly because they're high voltage diodes. My tester only tests normal diodes. I believe these are called a rectifier diode. I couldn't test them properly, so I just checked continuity across, ohms across them, and they all had the exact same amount of resistance. There's 6 of them on around the whole thing. But they turned out to all be good. And I had this open, and I found out that this one, the T10 tap, was loose in here and it pulled out. So I put it back in. Well, I had all this whole black all out, so it was all open. And I put it back in, tightened it up. I checked across all my taps, and I was getting 120 volts across each one of them. So with all these putting out 120, that meant that the diodes are fine, and it also meant that all the field windings are fine. So I checked the voltage going in, and it was 31.5 volts being put into it. I realized that there really wasn't anything wrong with the unit here, but you come in here, and here's the new control panel they put in, nice and shiny. You get the regulator here. It's an SE350 AVR, which is an automatic voltage regulator. We have the fine voltage adjustment screw. Another thing that was in the owner's manual was that it has how you're supposed to operate this. And it's you start the engine and you get 45 seconds, it counts down, you get 45 seconds to set this to the correct voltage corresponding to what you have your selector switch on. So on the other side where we had the selector switch, if we had that set on 480 and you start it up at 416, you're supposed to adjust this screw up until you get 480, and then once that gets to 45, the 45 seconds are up, then it locks that in, that's its voltage it's supposed to be running, and then if it goes under or over, it'll kick it out for under or over voltage alarm. So we would turn this up and it would only go up to like 435 volts or something like that. It wouldn't make it to 480. So there are 3 adjustment screws back there, one of which was voltage. So I took this off, even though later I found out that if you come back up into here, we've got 3 screws right here that you can access from the engine compartment, but it's just good that I didn't do that anyway, because I couldn't read which one it was, where when you take this thing off it actually says what each one does. And So I had this off and I adjusted it. We restarted it and it got better, but it still wasn't reaching the correct amount. So we shut it off, adjusted it up some more, and then it was within the tolerances where now you can reach your voltage to 480 down to 416, and you can get your 208 120 voltage. As it turns out, they wouldn't have had to put in a new control panel. They could have just taken this off and adjusted that up so that they could adjust their voltage properly. I'll put this back together and I will then start it, and I'll play with the voltage adjustment screw a little bit. I'll shut all these panels up. It's pretty quiet when all the doors are shut on it. We are going to set our selector switch on 480, and then we will turn it on, and we wait for the thing to calibrate itself and get ready. It's ready. Push the engine start, does its pre-start, and it cranks and starts up. So it's got a speeding tech just counting down, so you'll only have that much time to adjust. Let's push this. It says it's putting out 486 volts, which is a little bit too high. Push this. We can take and turn this down, and we can adjust the voltage down to 480. So we're sitting at 481, yeah, pretty good. 278, 277 line voltage, 481 on our phase-to-phase voltage. And now we'll go ahead and shut that down. Now we will do the 240 120 volt, and you're not supposed to run the selector switch with it running. It throws a code and shuts itself down. You've got to shut it off, change that. It needs to be restarted, have its voltage calibrated for that setting. Now once it's set, you can start it up continuous times after that on that same setting. But you will need to recalibrate it every time you turn that selector switch. Feeding check. So we are putting out 120 volts on line 1, 119 on line 3. That gives us 120 volt or 240 or 239. So it's really close to already calibrated. I mean, you go up just a touch, not much. But yeah, it's pretty much calibrated. But when we go to switch it to 208, I'll show you what happens there. So we come over, turn it to 208 120, which you get 208 phase to phase, 120 across your line to neutral. So then you can run 110 appliances off of that as long as you go from line to neutral. Now we're set on 208 3-phase. So we have trying to count down. Now it's 139 volts across each line, and we're 240 volts phase to phase. We need to be 208 and 120. So we'll take this and we turn it down. They say not to go too fast or too slow. Just kind of go a nice movement. Well, not they say not too slow, but just got to beat the time. They don't want it to be super fast. Okay, we're at 120 and 208, 209. So we're really good on our voltage. So now then you would tighten this the jam nut back, and we're now calibrated.